There is a moment every community leader eventually hits where they look at their community and think, what if blowing this up is actually the right move? And then immediately feel terrible about thinking it. Like, you built this thing. You care about your members. You have shown up consistently, even when it felt like you were talking to yourself. And you've tried the new content strategy, the re engagement campaign, the fresh rebrand with the better color palette. You have done the things. And still, something's off. Something has always been off. And deep down, you kind of knew it. Today, we're going to talk about that, the signals that tell you your model is not working and it's not going to, how to close something down without making it weird, and why starting over is sometimes the best strategic move you can make. Hi, I'm Rachel Starr, and this is Community at Heart. Let's dive in. Okay, so first, I want to reframe this whole conversation before we go anywhere, because the way most people approach this topic is heavy. Lots of grief, lots of shame, lots of, I tried so hard and it didn't work. And I get why it feels that way. But I think that framing is actually what keeps people stuck in a community model that is not serving them for way longer than they need to be. So here's the reframe, and I want you to hold this today. Ending a community that is not working is a strategic business decision, and a smart one, friends. And the founders who are willing to make it, learn from it, and build the next version with actual information instead of just assumptions, they're the ones who end up with communities that actually thrive. This is not a sad episode. This is a permission episode. Let's go. Now, before we get into the signals, I want to draw a line because not every community that is struggling needs to be ended. Some communities are struggling because the onboarding's a mess, or the pricing is off, or you had a rough few months and the community took the hit. Friend, those are fixable problems. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is structural problems, model problems, the kind where no amount of better content, a new engagement strategy, or a rebrand is going to change the trajectory. And if you have been in it for a while, you probably already know the difference. You felt it. You just have not said it out loud yet. Here is a quick way to tell. A community that needs tweaking has some wins. Members have engaged. The value proposition makes sense. You just have not nailed consistent delivery yet. A community that needs ending has never really had a sustained heartbeat. You launched, maybe had a little burst of energy, and then it went flat. And it has basically been flat ever since, no matter what you do. Now, the signals. There are 5. Let's move through them fast. Signal 1, nobody stays. Not just churn, which is normal in every membership. I mean the pattern where people join, look around, and leave within a month or two. And that has been true for over a year, regardless of what changes you make. That pattern is data. It is telling you the experience is not delivering on whatever you promised people when they signed up. And here's the uncomfortable part. You can improve the onboarding. You can add more content. You can personally reach out to every single new member. But if the core offer is not solving a real ongoing problem people are actively dealing with right now, they're still going to leave. Membership communities retain people when there is a clear, urgent, reoccurring reason to stay. Not just community and connection, which sounds great, but it's genuinely kind of vague. More like a specific, tangible thing that they can do, know, or become by being inside of your space that they cannot get somewhere else. If you cannot say that thing clearly and specifically, the retention will keep reflecting that. Signal 2, you're the only one showing up. This one can sneak up on you because it looks like dedication. You're posting every day, you're starting every conversation, you're in there. But try this thought experiment. What would happen if you stepped away for 2 weeks? No posts, no content, no conversation starters, just nothing from you. If the answer is also nothing from anyone else, that's not a community. That's a newsletter with a much more expensive platform. Real communities have energy that moves between members, not just from the founder outward. Members connecting with each other, asking questions, sharing wins, answering each other's things without you in the middle of it. That reciprocal energy is what makes a community worth running. It is also what makes it sustainable. If your community only has a heartbeat when you're actively providing one, the model is probably not set up to create those member to member connections naturally. That is a structural thing. And it is genuinely hard to fix just by showing up harder. Signal 3. The transformation is fuzzy, even to you. If someone asks you what your community does and you give a slightly different answer every time, that is a signal. Not that you're bad at explaining things, but that the offer itself has not fully landed. And here's the thing I want to say about this. Sometimes founders keep things vague on purpose because vague feels inclusive. Vague feels safe. Vague feels like no one will say no. But for everyone, it's not a community strategy. It's just a way of avoiding the hard work of getting specific. Communities that work have a sharp answer to 3 questions. Who specifically is this for? What specific thing does it help them do or become? And why does a community format make more sense for that goal than a course or a coaching program? If you cannot answer all 3 in one clear breath, the structure is probably blurry. And here's what happens when you try to fix that by tweaking the copy. The messaging keeps feeling like it's fighting you because you're trying to write clarity that does not exist yet in the offer itself. You cannot write your way out of an unclear structure. That clarity has to come from the inside out. Signal 4, the math is not mathing, and you cannot see a path to changing it. I'm going to be direct here because I think this one gets avoided in favor of more emotionally comfortable conversations. If you've been running a community for over a year and the revenue does not cover what it costs you in time, money, and mental energy, that is data worth looking at honestly. Not as evidence that you are bad at this, just as data. Memberships do take time to build. Month 3 profitability is not a realistic expectation, but if you're 18 months in, still not covering your costs, and you cannot draw a clear line between where you are now and financial viability in the next 6 months, something needs to change. Running at a sustained loss because you love your members, it's not a strategy, friends. Eventually, that toll shows up in your energy and in the quality of what you deliver. And then you end up resenting the very thing you built with love, which is the worst possible outcome for everyone. Signal 5, you dread it. This is the big one, and it is the one people are least likely to say out loud. When the community stopped feeling like something you were proud of and started feeling like a weight you carry, when you log in not with excitement, but with that low hum of obligation and mild guilt, when creating content for it sounds less appealing than reorganizing your filing system, that dread is real information. Not that you are a bad leader, not that you're a bad person, that something is misaligned at a level that more effort is just not gonna fix. And here is what I have watched happen when people ignore that signal for too long. The dread, it becomes resentment. And a resentful community leader cannot build a thriving community. It's just not possible. You can push through it for a while, but the energy leaks through. The members feel it even when they cannot name it. So if you're dreading the thing you built, that's important. Take it seriously. Okay, now for the fun part. How do you actually close something down well? Because there is a right way to do this, and it is not dramatic, not weird, and not something you need to spiral about. Here is how to close a community with integrity and your head held high. Step 1, get clear with yourself first. Before you say anything publicly, know your own story. There is a real difference between I'm closing this because I give up and I'm closing this because I learned what this actually needed to be and I'm going to build that instead. Both can be true at the same time, but you need to be settled in your own head before you can clearly communicate it to anyone else. Your clarity will determine how grounded your message lands. Step 2, give your members real notice. 30 days minimum, more if you can. Some people will cancel before the closing date once they know it's coming. That's okay. They deserve to know what is happening with the space they're paying for. Do not keep them in the dark to protect a few extra weeks of revenue. That is not the kind of founder you want to be. Step 3, keep the communication short, clear, and warm. You do not need a 10-paragraph explanation. You need, this community is closing on this date. Here is what that means for your billing, and here is where you can find me. That's it. If you're building something new, mention it. If you're not ready to share what is next, you do not have to. Just give people a way to stay connected if they want to. Step 4, handle the money right. If anyone has an annual plan, sort out prorated refunds. Do it even if it is not fun. The way you close something is part of your brand. People will remember it. Make sure what they remember is that you were fair. And then here's the part nobody tells you. The real work starts after you close it, not in immediately launching the next thing, not in pivoting before you've processed what just happened, but in doing the debrief. Before you research platforms or sketch out a new offer to start building anything, sit down and write out everything you learned. What did you learn about who your actual members were versus who you assume they would be? What did you learn about how you operate as a community leader? What format worked, even a little? What felt like a grind from day one? What would you do differently if you started over tomorrow? Friends, this is not a sad exercise. I want to be clear about that. This is the most valuable research you could possibly have on your community model. Research that you could not have gathered from a course or a mastermind or even someone else's case study. You learned it by actually doing the thing and watching what happened. That is worth a lot. And here is what I have seen happen for founders who take this step seriously. The communities they build on the other side are so much sharper, so much more intentional because they were built from actual knowledge instead of assumptions. Some of the strongest communities I know are version 2 or even 3 of something a founder tried and closed. They built the first thing, learned what it needed to be, made the decision, and then built the next version from a completely different foundation with real clarity about who their members were, what their transformation actually looked like, and why a community format made sense for that specific thing. Closing version 1 is often exactly what makes version 2 possible. So, when you're ready, and not before, here's the question worth asking. What would I build if I started from everything I now know? Not what do I wish I had built? What would I actually build today with everything I understand about my people, my leadership style, and the format that creates the outcome they're looking for? That question is so much more useful than how do I fix what I had? Okay, last thing before I let you go. We live in a business world that is loud about persistence. Do not quit, push through, champions keep going when it gets hard. And yes, there is something real in that. Consistency matters. Hard seasons are not always reasons to stop, but there is a version of persistence that is just fear in a nicer outfit. Fear of what stopping means, fear of what people will think, fear that walking away makes all that time and money a waste. And that specific flavor of fear keeps some truly great founders stuck in something that stopped serving them or their members a long time ago. Knowing when to let something go, close it cleanly, and build the next version with what you now know, that is not weakness, my friend. That is honestly just good leadership. You're not a failure for ending something that was not working. You are a founder who knows how to learn from what you built. That is the whole skill set right there. If you're in that in between place right now, figuring out what the next right thing actually looks like, come find me inside coCreator Society. It's where we walk through exactly these kinds of pivots together. The strategy, the structure, the what do I even build now conversations. It is on circle. It has real energy, and I'm in there every day because my community is my favorite place on the internet. Head to coCreatorsociety.com and join us. Until next week, bye, friends.